Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and I was driving my Cobra around and I could feel that the clutch didn't feel like it should, and I could hear it too. Listen to this carnage. So by the sound of it, my suspicion was right, and the clutch cable was coming apart, starting to fray. So you can see how bad this is. Now, as far as clutch cables go, my favorite is the Ford factory cable. They stopped making that. Ford now offers the Ford Racing adjustable one. Adjustable one's okay as long as you use some Loctite and don't let the nut come loose, but I would always have trouble with that, so I like the single length one. Now, since Ford stopped making it, Maximum Motorsports makes it as close as you can get. They actually went to the manufacturer who used to make them for Ford and have them made for them. So I have a full video on the clutch quadrant, the cable, the firewall adjuster, everything installing for a new setup. So on my Cobra today, it's going to be a little bit different because it already has a clutch quadrant and a different firewall adjuster and all that. So we'll be just installing and changing the clutch cable, but I wanted to show you a few things that are involved in this. So with Maximum Motorsports, the cable that they have made now that's like the Ford one from the same company is a little bit longer, so they give you a little spacer. And so this spacer, in my experience, I've had to add it both times. It can be somewhat adjusted out if you want to try that. But basically what they do is give you this little spacer that goes on the end of the cable on the clutch pedal side. You put this little piece down in to lock it in place, and then they give you a small piece of heat shrink tube. So you slide this over it, and then you hit it with a heat gun or even just a lighter from far enough away where only the heat is, touching it, and it will shrink it around it and keep that in place. And so basically, the only reason we have this is to adjust the length. So where the clutch quadrant would catch here, it now catches a little bit lower to make up for that extra length if you don't need that length. So different firewall adjusters and clutch quadrants may change that length. So you just kind of have to see what you have. In this case, as I put them side to side, you could see you definitely needed that spacer to get these to be close to the same length, the way that it should be. So that's what I did on my GT, and that's what we're doing on the Cobra today. Again, you can ditch the spacer and try using a firewall adjuster or a different hook on your clutch quadrant, just depending on what you have. So make sure you have your wheels chalked and the car's in gear, parking brake up. You don't want the car to roll away from you. Next, what I did was lifted the car into the air here, and I have a jack stand under here, and I left my floor jack under there too for extra safety. We're going to take a 10mm socket and with an extension and take off that 10mm bolt right here on our dust shield. So 10mm is the size. Very simple. It's just a little screw actually that comes out here, and then this dust cover slides right out. Next, we're taking a pry bar and we're just prying forward, and as we pry forward, we can unloop the cable from the clutch fork. And so now it's loose there. We're going to do it on this end first. It'll be a lot easier under the dash. Take some needle nose pliers or a screwdriver, and we're going to take the C-clip out. It helps to push the cable towards the back of the car to loosen up the tension on that clip. Now we can just slide our cable out of the transmission little housing here. Up in here, there's an 8mm bolt that's holding the bracket to the frame of the car. So we're going to take that out so that the clutch cable is free. And now we can come up under the dash. And since the cable is already loose underneath the car, it's really easy to unlatch it from our clutch quadrant here under the dash. Now just pull the cable out. Be careful doing so. You still have that bracket attached. And we're going to need to take this and transfer it over to our new cable. So I just put it in the vise here. And basically you just want to come in here and loosen this up a little bit, pry on it with a screwdriver. And so once you get a screwdriver in here to just pry it open, you can slide the cable out and retain our bracket here. And my tip and my advice is put this on the car now. It's easier to tighten it up and get it lined up. There's a line-up notch on the back side and then the 8mm bolt. And once it's in place, then you can loop the cable into it. But it's really hard otherwise to get this to line up right with the cable being bent and wormed in here. So as you can see, we just kind of set this up in here now to where it's hooking in there. and it grabs it nice enough, and you can try to pinch it back together if you want, but that's what I would recommend is the easiest way to get that bracket. So now that bracket is in place and this cable comes down, it's going to go back and follow under the K-member and just parallel with the oil pan and back into the way that we took this off. And if you want, you can leave your old cable in and run the new one next to it if you want to make sure you're running it the right way. But anyway, next we're just putting our clip back in here, a little C-clip. And again, it helps to kind of pull on the cable forward like that. As you push forward, then you can get that C-clip in, and it just pops right back into place. Now we'll take our pry bar and push on the clutch fork and loop it in, and you will know that it's right when basically as you're prying it in, you should barely need to use the pry bar to get that clutch cable in. That's how you'll know it's the right length. If it's really hard and you're pushing super hard to get that to loop in, you know you're out of adjustment, so you need to change the firewall adjuster. Or use a different hook on your clutch quadrant if you have a different hook on that. And that's basically the way that you'll know it's right, is it just takes just a little bit of force on the pry bar to loop that in. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check the video description where I'll put more videos on the firewall adjuster, the clutch quadrant, and adjusting it and all that. Thanks, guys.